My attorney had already put the documents in order. From this second forward, this house belonged to me. My brother's voice rang out, bouncing off the chandelier crystals like a gavel striking in court. He didn't even blink before lifting his glass toward the guests. She has no place here anymore. A few relatives chuckled, the kind of brittle laughter that wounds sharper than insults. My husband pressed his lips to the rim of his wine glass, tasting it slowly, as if betrayal were a fine bottle he'd been saving for such an occasion. Beneath the table, my best friend's fingers clutched mine, her nails biting into my palm. Proof that I was still here, still real, still breathing. Hello, I'm A.R. Quinn. I'm 29. And if you believe you can already see the ending of this story, don't exhale just yet. I once thought family was the chain that kept me grounded. But what if that chain is what pulls you beneath the water? The room buzzed with hushed voices, clinking forks, the discreet cough of an uncle pretending not to notice. My brother, polished in his tailored suit, soaked up the spotlight as if he had rehearsed this unveiling night after night. As I watched him, rage didn't come. What arose instead was colder, sharper, alive under my skin. Strategy. This was supposed to be my celebration, my walls, my furniture, my narrative. Yet in a single rehearsed line, he recast me as the stranger here. I wanted to rise up, to scream until the arrogance was ripped from his face. I didn't. I simply counted. 3, 2, 1. Then quiet fell, thick and suffocating. A silence heavy enough to make the chandelier give up its sway. In that pause, every gaze turned on me, hungry for an eruption. Instead, I let a faint smile bloom, soft, sly, saying everything and nothing at once. My chest burned with betrayal from the blood I shared. This same brother, who once begged me to bury his secrets in our childhood attic, now paraded mine in front of onlookers. My husband's composure cut deepest. No outcry, no defense, merely another sip. My friend's hand pressed harder, a quivering tether whispering, "Don't crumble." Not yet. In that pause, I discovered something dangerous. Restraint can weigh heavier than fury. My brother believed the stage was his, but I had already begun drafting a performance he would never forget. Because silence is not absence, it is countdown. And mine had just started. That hush didn't shatter me. It cracked them. A cousin cleared his throat a little too loud. Another dragged his chair nervously. Still, my brother beamed, mistaking the stillness for triumph. His glass shimmered in the light as he circled the wine, savoring his theater. Why just sit there, he needled. You knew this was inevitable. You've never been more than a visitor in your own home. Each word sank like arrows poisoned with long-nursed envy. But I didn't shrink. Instead, I felt my friend's thumb pulse gently against mine beneath the table. Steady, deliberate. Wait. Be sharp. I scanned the room like surveying a battleground. The uncles leaned back, arms folded, playing impartial. The aunts whispered behind napkins, gossip lifting like smoke. And my husband, my Judas, reclined against his chair, lips pressed in that tight half-smile, his gaze slipping away from mine. Too at ease in my brother's halo, too willing to be part of it. My heart raced, not from shock anymore, but from the clarity of truth. My brother's decree hadn't been a sudden strike. It was prepared, scripted, backed by someone who knew my soft spots, someone closer than blood. I raised my glass, slowly, deliberately, mirroring his every motion. Interesting, I murmured, letting my voice fall so low they had to tip forward to catch it. But tell me, brother, when did you start swapping loyalty for signatures? Was it back before you borrowed money you never returned? Or after? His grin flickered, just for a heartbeat, but it was enough. My words slid through the air like fine cracks creeping across flawless stone. Beneath the table, my friend's hand squeezed mine tighter, a tiny victory, a silent vow I stand with you. The room stirred uneasily, as if they could all sense this was no longer a petty sibling's spat, but something sharper, darker. And in that instant, I understood. My brother wasn't the only one who had come prepared. Revenge doesn't always roar with thunder. Sometimes it begins with whispers, blades quieter than any scream. and I was ready to let mine cut louder than his arrogance had ever imagined. Just a small fracture appeared at his smirk, barely there, but I caught it. Panic, trying desperately to stay hidden behind his swagger. He placed his glass down too fast, the sharp clink cutting through the table like a warning bell. "Don't twist this," he shot back. "Everyone here knows you've been reckless. Someone had to step in before you destroyed everything." The crowd leaned closer, drawn by the pull of spectacle. My chest rose, slow and steady. I didn't rush. "Destroyed everything?" I asked evenly. "Or created something you couldn't stand to see me own?" Gasps fluttered across the room. Light from the chandelier shimmered on restless eyes darting between us. My brother's jaw clenched, but his gaze betrayed him, slipping first toward my husband, then to the papers tucked inside his jacket pocket. And then it hit me. My husband's silence wasn't neutrality. It was knowledge. My stomach knotted, tight and fast. Betrayal had a face, and it was the one calmly sipping wine beside me. When I locked eyes with him, he looked away first. Proof enough. The air grew heavy with silence, pressing down like storm clouds waiting to break. My best friend's fingers shook against mine, not with fear, but with wrath she dared not reveal. "Let me make this plain," my brother declared, his voice rising. "The deed is signed. The lawyer can verify. This no longer belongs to you." His certainty was practiced, smooth on the surface, but his voice carried a quiver underneath, and everyone heard it. He wasn't unstoppable. He was cornered by his own deceit, and we all felt the tension ripple. I leaned forward, lowering my tone to just above a breath, the kind of whisper that demands silence in a room. "You may think you've taken my house, brother, but you've only crafted the stage for your own undoing." The chandelier gave a faint flicker, as though even the lights held still for what was coming. The countdown hadn't ended, it had sharpened, and I alone held the match. Invisible, but burning in my hand, I let the silence weigh heavier, until the very walls seemed to lean closer. Then, deliberately, I spoke. "If you're so certain the deed is truly yours, then tell me this. Why do your hands tremble every time you speak of it?" His fingers stalled mid-gesture, the faint tremble of his hand betraying him as he clutched the stem of his glass. A collective hush swept the crowd, every eye snapping to the crack in his composure. He tried to laugh, but the sound came weak, brittle, empty. And finally, my husband cleared his throat. "That's enough," he said, voice steady, carefully measured, almost rehearsed. "This isn't the time or place for family theatrics. Everyone came here to celebrate." I turned toward him with deliberate slowness, my gaze narrowing. "Celebrate what exactly? My home, or the illusion that loyalty still exists within these walls?" The sentence cut clean through the room. My husband recoiled, just barely, but I noticed. That was the instant the truth crystallized. He wasn't just a bystander. He was invested. Across the table, my best friend sat stiff-backed, her eyes fierce though her mouth never moved. She gripped my hand once, hard, as though pouring her strength into me, and it worked. Fear drained away, leaving behind something far sharper. Clarity. Resolve. "Brother," I said evenly, holding his gaze, "who financed your attorney? Who slipped you the details of my loan, my accounts, my weakest defenses? Was it only you?" For the briefest flicker, his eyes darted to my husband. "That was enough," he said. The room inhaled as one, like masks being lifted all at once. My brother smirked again, though stretched so taut it barely held. "Careful, Era. You've always had such a vivid imagination." I leaned back, letting a faint smile touch my lips. Imagination spins tales. Evidence ends them. And I promise you I carry both. Above us, the chandelier shifted gently, scattering fractured beams of light. Every guest sat tense. In that brittle silence, I knew the tide had shifted. What began as a housewarming had become something else entirely. My trial. My battleground. The unraveling had only just begun. Cracks widened in plain view. My brother's voice faltered, my husband's jaw tightened, and the guests began to shuffle, no longer partygoers but witnesses. Each wine glass caught the light like a mirror of judgment. I let their silence weigh heavier, then tilted my head, smiling as if in on some private joke. Do you remember, brother, when we were children and you begged me to hide your report cards? The ones showing you failed that class twice? His cheeks burned red. Murmurs rippled through the guests. He opened his mouth to reply, but I barely gave him the chance. You've always been skilled at burying your failures beneath louder stories. And now you've woven my husband into your performance. But tell me this, who stands to gain the most if I vanish? The question hung in the air like smoke. All eyes turned to my husband. He placed his glass down slowly, too slowly. His lips parted, prepared to defend, but no words followed. My best friend leaned in close, her whisper just for me. They underestimated you. Keep going. I looked back to the room. Family isn't only about blood. It's about trust. And tonight, under my roof, you've revealed exactly who places faith in betrayal over truth. My brother forced a laugh, brittle and hollow. You don't have proof, Era. You have stories, and stories won't save you. I raised my glass. You're right. Stories don't save me. They save those who finally see the mask fall. Proof, though proof destroys. Suddenly, a sharp knock echoed at the front door. Every head swung toward it. The timing was uncanny, like something out of a film. My brother stiffened. My husband went rigid. I rose slowly from my chair, fabric whispering against the wood, and turned to the audience of guests with a smile. Proof, I breathed. It always has perfect timing. The knock sounded again, harder this time, forceful. In that echo, the moment I'd waited for split wide open. Another pounding hit, shaking the cutlery against the china. Every gaze in the room followed me as I crossed the shine of the floor. My heels struck rhythmically, a judge's gavel bringing order. Behind me, my brother's voice cracked the air, edged with panic. Don't open it, Era. That fear told me everything I needed. I swung the door wide. On the threshold stood a courier in a tailored dark suit, a leather strap slanting across his chest. He adjusted his glasses, his tone calm, well-rehearsed. Delivery for Ms. Quinn. Legal papers. Please sign here. The crowd rippled with unease. My brother lunged forward, his face draining of color. That's mine, he snapped, reaching for the envelope. The courier jerked back, frown carving his face. I'm afraid not, sir. This package is marked for Miss Quinn. Identity verified. He extended his hand toward me. Steady, unflinching, I signed. My pen carved the page like a blade. He passed me the sealed envelope, weighty, undeniable. I thanked him softly, and when the door clicked shut, the room collapsed into silence. I walked back with slow composure, watching dread unfurl across my brother's face. At the table, my husband sat stiff, a sheen of sweat forming. Beside him, my best friend whispered, "Open it." I tore the seal. Inside, copies of my deed. Notarized, stamped, beyond dispute. Letters from the bank. Every transaction cataloged. Each signature confirmed. And tucked at the back, evidence of forgery. My brother's name. My husband signed betrayal. The air lit like a storm. I spread the documents flat, across the table. Under the chandelier's glare, truth gleamed mercilessly. You wanted a stage, I whispered. Here it is. Gasps rippled like surf against stone. My brother lunged, then froze as dozens of eyes skewered him. My husband's lips parted with excuses that never formed. He shrank beneath the weight, diminished by truth. And me, I didn't need to shout. Silence struck harder than any scream. Our celebration had shifted. The housewarming was now a tribunal, and it was only beginning. The air quivered with tension. Breaths came shallow, glances sharpened. My brother's hand hovered over the papers, a thief suspended in discovery. My husband leaned back, his gaze darting, searching vainly for an exit invisible to us all. I squared my shoulders, letting the silence thicken. Then I spoke. Forgery, conspiracy, betrayal, all dressed as family loyalty. My voice trembled, but not with fear. With authority. Tell me, brother, how long did you think this act could go on? Until I left? Until shame crushed me? He faltered, words spilling shapelessly. Panic had stripped him bare, leaving nothing but desperation. It was never supposed to go this far. Aunt Lydia gasped. The sound sharpened the silence. Someone whispered under their breath. Impossible. What had begun as a gathering now shifted into a courtroom, and it was my brother standing in judgment. I turned toward my husband. His rigid stillness betrayed him more than any denial could. And you, I said, my voice edged with accusation. You knew. You let him feast on my trust while you poured me wine. At last he moved, meeting my eyes, yet there was nothing but cowardice staring back. It was only business, he muttered, frail, the words of a man already defeated. Business, I repeated, my tone colder, cutting. Marriage is not a transaction. Trust is not a coin, and betrayal will never be profit. Beside me, my dearest friend slipped her hand from mine, rising slowly. Her voice was clear, unwavering. You both misjudged her. That was mistake one. Mistake two was thinking she would stay silent. The room stirred, energy shifting. Murmurs hardened into accusations, murmurs into verdicts. My brother withered beneath the crowd's gaze. My husband drowned in their silence, the kind that screamed louder than judgment. I gathered the papers from the table, pressing them to my chest like armor. This house isn't yours, I said evenly, with finality. It never was. But tonight, everyone here will remember it as the place you lost more than walls. You lost me. Above us, the chandelier trembled, its crystals chiming like the universe itself applauding. And still one last act remained. It began not with fury but with lucid calm. I stood at the head of my table, the documents laid before me like a crown reclaimed. The same guests who had once whispered doubt now looked at me differently. Their silence carried weight, respect. My brother's bravado crumbled. His shoulders sagged as if the air itself betrayed him. Elara, please, he stammered, but the words cracked beneath their own fragility. He was no victor now, just a boy tangled in his own snare. I raised the deed, holding it high. You tried to erase me, but truth stains with ink that cannot be scrubbed away. My voice was steady, each word sharper than any judge's gavel. This home is mine. This life is mine. And your betrayal has no place within these walls. The guests shifted, nodding one by one. Even those who had chosen neutrality now leaned toward my side. The shift in tide was irreversible. Then I looked to my husband. He avoided my gaze, his grip trembling around his glass. You chose silence when your voice could have meant something, I said quietly. In that silence, you showed me who you are. Tonight, my vow is simple. You'll never take a seat at my table again. He swallowed, mute. His silence was confession enough. My best friend slipped her arm through mine, steadying me. In her presence lived proof that loyalty still survives, even when blood and vows crumble into ash. I turned back to the room, my voice low but resolute. Let tonight be remembered not as the night I was betrayed, but as the night betrayal was defeated. The chandelier above burst into brilliance, light shattering across polished wood and broken illusions. My brother hung his head. My husband collapsed into his chair. Around us, the guests rose, some in support, some in shame. With the papers pressed against my heart, I drew in my first true breath of the night. The weight lifted. Not rage, but clarity settled in its place. Betrayal had built this stage. Justice closed the curtain.